morning, students. In the last topic, we have learnt the details of human nutrition. Like what are the different steps in the total human nutrition, wherein we have learnt that there are total 5 steps in human nutrition: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and digestion. And we are left with another topic, that is dental caries or tooth decay. The first step of the human nutrition, that is ingestion. During this process, a physical digestion is going to carry out. It is going to be carried out. In this process, a lot of food, it is getting crushed by our teeth. During this process, some amount of food particles will get stick to the surface of our teeth. When we close our mouth during our rest, in our oral cavity, large number of bacteria are present. All these masses of bacteria along with the food particles, they form an outer covering on the surface of the teeth, which we call dental plaque. The bacteria that act on the sugars present in the food particles release acids. Generally, the acidic action will be removed by the saliva present in our oral cavity. But as the dental plaque is covered on the surface of the teeth, the saliva cannot reach to the surface of the teeth. So, the release of acids by the bacteria that are acting on the sugars will cause gradual softening or demineralization of enamel and dentin. This gradual softening or demineralization process will cause small pores or holes to be formed on the surface of the teeth, which causes the internal infection. In order to avoid this problem, we need to remove the dental plaque so that the saliva can act on the bacteria, so that no infection can take place. So, regular brushing of the teeth twice in a day, before going to bed and after getting up from bed, will help the teeth from getting affected with this dental caries. Okay. Now coming to the second life process, that is respiration. In the introduction of this chapter only, we have learned the definition of respiration, like acquiring of oxygen from the outside of the organism and to use it for the breakdown of the food sources to release energy for cellular needs is called respiration. But does it hold in common for all organisms? No. Actual cellular respiration refers that the breakdown of food to release energy for cellular needs. But in most of the organisms, the breakdown of food to release energy involves the use of oxygen. But in some organisms, the breakdown of food to release energy doesn't involve oxygen. So, basically, respiration is of 2 types: aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration refers to the breakdown of food to release energy for cellular needs with the use of oxygen, which commonly occurs in most of the animals and plants as well as in many of the prokaryotic organisms. and in many of the fungi. Whereas anaerobic respiration refers to the breakdown of food to release energy for cellular needs without the use of oxygen, which occurs only in some bacteria and in yeast-like organisms and in the muscle cells of our body when they are deprived of oxygen during strenuous physical activity like continuous swimming for longer periods or continuous exercise for longer periods. Whether it is aerobic respiration or anaerobic respiration, both of them occur in two steps. The first step of both aerobic and anaerobic respiration is common, which doesn't involve oxygen. The first step of aerobic and anaerobic respiration is same or common, which doesn't involve oxygen. And this step takes place in the cytoplasm in both aerobic respiration carrying out organisms as well as anaerobic respiration carrying out organisms. This step is called glycolysis. Since the glucose is broken down into two pyruvate molecules. Glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. Glucose is broken down into two pyruvate molecules. Each pyruvate is 3-carbon molecule. Thus, one glucose gives two pyruvates, which takes place in cytoplasm of the cell. Further, what is the fate of pyruvate? It is different in aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In the case of aerobic respiration, the pyruvate is further processed in mitochondria with the use of oxygen. The pyruvate is completely broken down into the pyruvate is completely broken down into 3 carbon dioxide molecules and water molecule with the release of energy, which takes place in mitochondria. During aerobic respiration, the pyruvate is further broken down into 3 carbon dioxide molecules and water molecule with the release of energy. In the case of yeast cells, the pyruvate is broken down into 1 ethanol molecule and 1 carbon dioxide molecule. If you carefully look at it, the ethanol molecule is having 2 carbons in it, and in carbon dioxide 1 carbon is there. So the 3 carbon molecule, that is pyruvate, is broken down into 1 2 carbon molecule and 1 carbon molecule. So 3 carbons is divided into 2 plus 1 with the release of energy. In our muscle cells, during strenuous activity, the oxygen gets deprived, means oxygen will not be sufficient enough in order to provide energy or in order to carry out cellular respiration. During such conditions, during oxygen deprived conditions, the muscle cells will undergo or the muscle cells will carry out anaerobic respiration. Here the fate of pyruvate is different from that of both the above. That is, pyruvate, which is 3 carbon molecule, it is converted into lactic acid so that energy can be released. Lactic acid also a 3 carbon molecule. So pyruvate is converted. It is not broken down. It is simply converted into lactic acid. But if you look at these 3 types of respirations, one aerobic type of respiration, another 2 types of anaerobic types of respiration. Because anaerobic respiration here we have discussed 2 types. In yeast, alcohol is released, and in oxygen deprived muscle cells, lactate is released or lactic acid is released. So 2 types of anaerobic respiration. If you compare these 2 types of anaerobic respiration with aerobic respiration, more energy or greater amount of energy is released in aerobic respiration than anaerobic respiration. The energy that is released, whether it is in aerobic respiration or in anaerobic respiration, it is generally in the form of heat. So heat cannot be stored. So this heat form of energy, it is used to synthesize or to prepare ATP, which is chemical form of energy, which can be stored. Okay. In the case of oxygen deprived muscle cells, the release of lactic acid cause muscular pains or muscle cramps. Okay. Coming to ATP, the energy that is released in the form of heat, okay, during respiration, it is used to synthesize ATP. ATP refers to adenosine triphosphate. This ATP is used as fuel or energy currency of the cell during many of the cellular activities. And this energy, it is used to drive, means to conduct, to carry out the endothermic or energy requiring or energy consuming activities of the cell. Endothermic means energy is taken in. Exothermic means energy is released out. Cellular respiration, it is exothermic activity because energy is released out. Whereas many activities like contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, nerve impulse transmission, they take energy in order that process to be carried out. So in all these activities, energy that is stored in the form of ATP, it is utilized. How much energy is released by the hydrolysis of ATP? What is hydrolysis of ATP? Adding water to break down the terminal phosphate in ATP. Adding water to break down the terminal phosphate of ATP is called hydrolysis of ATP. The hydrolysis of ATP releases 30.5 kilojoules per mole of energy from ATP hydrolysis. Okay. So which types of activities consume energy? Contraction of muscles, protein synthesis, nerve impulse transmission. And how respiration takes place in different organisms. Let us take the autotrophic organism, that is plants. In plants, gaseous exchange, it mainly occurs by means of diffusion through the small pores present on various parts of the plant body. If you look at the leaves contain the tiny pores or holes in the form of stomata. Stomata helps in gaseous exchange. And how air goes inside and how air comes outside. Okay. And how each and every cell of the plant body can get the access of these respiratory gases, because they do not have any separate respiratory system like how humans have got a respiratory system or how other animals have got respiratory system. In plants, large intercellular spaces are present. These large intercellular spaces ensure that all the cells are coming in contact with air so that the oxygen from the air can be taken in and the CO2 from the cells can be released out. But the direction of diffusion means which gas has to be taken inside the cells or which gas has to be released outside the cells. Obviously, oxygen has to be taken in and CO2 has to be released out. That is in the case of animals. In the case of plants, CO2 also is very essential for the plants for their photosynthesis to be carried out. So CO2 also can be taken in by the plant cells. And oxygen also can be taken in by the plant cells for their respiration. But direction of which gas has to be taken in or which gas has to be released out, it depends on the environmental conditions and the plant's requirements. During the daytime, light is very much available so that photosynthesis can be carried out very easily. During that time, CO2 is very much essential. So CO2 will be taken in and oxygen will be released out. And plant will focus more on photosynthesis than on respiration during the daytime. So, the release of oxygen is the major event during the daytime due to the more photosynthetic rate during the daytime. Whereas during the night time, light is not available, so no photosynthesis is carried out. So, plant focus more on respiration. During that time, which gas will be released? in more respiration, CO2 will be released. So during night time, CO2 release is the major event in the plants. So based on the environmental condition and based on the plant requirement, the direction of diffusion of gases is dependent in plants. So during the daytime, oxygen release is the major event, and during the night time, CO2 release is the major event in the plants. Thank you.